Hey everyone, welcome back to JarDev. Today I'm going to be talking about Code Vein. Sean Heatherly basically asked me to do a review of Code Vein. I never did a John's Watch on it because, try as I might, I could not get a review code for this, so I did actually end up just buying it. But for the most part, if I have to buy a game myself, I don't do a review on it. Just makes it more fair for companies who do send me review copies pretty much. Sean got to request this video because he backs the top tier of my Patreon campaign, which you can find at patreon.com/JarDev. But Code Vein has been described as basically anime Dark Souls. Obviously that stuck out to me when I first heard about it. I always try and check out any Souls-like that comes out. Most of them just do not do it for me. Code Vein does, surprisingly enough. I really enjoyed this game. At the time of recording this, I have 40 hours in the game so far. I did 2 playthroughs. Those 2 took about 37 hours altogether, and I've just started a co-op playthrough, a recorded playthrough with Taylor. So, cheeky little spoiler here for a series that'll come out in like 3 or 4 months probably. I've played a lot of Souls-like games. I've tried both the Surges. I still have not tried Lords of the Fallen, funnily enough. Even though I've had that for like 4 years or something at this point. I really should give it a go sometime. I just always forget about it. I've played Sultan Sanctuary. I've played like any indie game that comes out that says it's Souls-like. I've tried them all. None of them have gripped me the way that Dark Souls has. I have like 600 plus hours in the 3 Dark Souls games at this point. So obviously I was very skeptical when Code Vein came out. I took a look at the beta for the PS4 a while ago and wasn't really impressed by it. It was pretty laggy, the graphics were pretty crap, the tutorial zone wasn't particularly inspiring. So when it released, I wasn't actually going to buy it. I wasn't interested enough in it. I don't even remember what happened, why I got interested in it. I remember like I left it alone for like a week or 2. I sent out a couple of emails to try and get a copy of it just in case. But I think it was advertised pretty heavily on Steam, so I ended up just looking at the store page. I saw it was getting really good reviews, so I took a look at it. Unfortunately, there was no demo available, so I did my own demo, if you know what I mean. I'm not going to explicitly say how I did that. But I basically played that demo, in quotations, for, I think it was about like an hour and a half, and that was all it took for me to know that I did actually want to play this game. So I got rid of that demo instantly, and just bought the deluxe version because it came with the season pass, which will mean 3 more bits of DLC, which are starting soon. I think they start in January. It's probably the closest to Dark Souls of any Souls-like I've played. They keep things pretty much identical to Dark Souls. The controls are mostly the same. This one has a bit of a system where you like activate combos, so that you hold down right trigger and press any of the face buttons or any of the like any direction on the D-pad to do skills, so you have like 8 skills equipped at any one time. So that's obviously pretty different from Dark Souls. It does mean that you can't have your heavy attack on right trigger, so I had to rebind it so that my light attack was on right bumper, which is how I like it, and then I put heavy attack on Y, just because that was pretty much all that was left. But other than that, it's very much the same. You press A to interact, you press B to roll. Some of the controls are differently. You press down on the D-pad to use your healing item or whatever item you have in your quick slot. You hold X to run, which does make hopping between Code Vein and Dark Souls pretty tricky, because in Dark Souls you press X to heal, so if you've been playing hours of Code Vein, hop into Dark Souls, you'll try and run, you'll accidentally chug your Estus, which isn't ideal. But other than some slight differences in like control schemes, the combat's pretty much the same. You lock onto enemies, you roll around them. There's no shields in the game. You can still parry, just like with your bare hand pretty much, but it does encourage a lot of rolling, which is great because that's how I play Dark Souls anyway. It's also a lot less difficult than Dark Souls, so like, if you like the idea of Souls-like games, but you've never been able to play them because they are very hard. Code Vein is basically Dark Souls-Lite, is how I call it. You always have an NPC companion partner with you in all levels. You do have the option to send them away, but the game gets really hard without them. And this partner can res you if you die. They have like the skill on cooldown that lets you, or lets them res you. So that does make some parts of the game fairly easy, but I've seen a lot of comments from like people saying that they turned off the AI partner and the game was almost impossible to get through. So you kind of need to have it on. So it's not going to be as hard as Dark Souls unless you want to play like a really, really hard version of it. I found the difficulty progression of the game worked pretty well. At the start, it was pretty hard. Some of those early bosses were pretty difficult with just like starting equipment. But then as you start to get further in and you figure out how to play the game a bit better, it starts to get a fair bit easier. Some of the middle bosses are pretty easy, like you'll kill them first try, no matter what, sometimes. And then you get to the end game bosses, and those are very difficult. Like, regardless of what build you've got, pretty much. My first playthrough, I just didn't look up a guide or anything, I just played around, used whatever weapons I could find, used whatever skills I liked the sound of. And then my second playthrough, I followed a guide to make a Dark Mage build, which was very strong, fairly overpowered, and even that character still struggled with some of the endgame bosses. My least favorite part of the game is the story, actually. I don't mind the story on its own, but I found there were so many cutscenes, and it just got really frustrating in my first playthrough. You would enter a new area, you'd have to sit through like 5 to 15 minutes of cutscenes. You would get to a boss fight, you'd have to sit through more cutscenes, and they're not like Dark Souls cutscenes where you step into the boss room and the boss like roars at you and then you do the boss fight. This one, like, you step into the boss room, your 15 companions all have to monologue a little bit, the boss will monologue a bit, and then you get to fight them. And at some points in the game, like, you'll get like 3 or 4 cutscenes back to back to back. There's a lot of story, a lot of exposition, loads of dialogue in the game. So I definitely got pretty annoyed at it in my first playthrough. I don't know why, like I was talking to Taylor about it yesterday, he didn't mind it in the slightest, but I got really frustrated with the story and cutscenes. So my second playthrough, I skipped every bit of dialogue, every cutscene, way more enjoyable. It was really fun just treating it as like an action game. So I do really wish they'd actually taken the Dark Souls approach to the story, made it really obscure and like you can miss all of it if you're not looking for it. That would have been a lot more fun, I think. Because I don't think the story is good enough to justify all the cutscenes and exposition that were in there. The best part about the game is probably the character customization. It's just like Dark Souls, you can customize so many different weapons, so many different weapon types and different weapons all within those categories. Your armor can't customize too much. There's only this one equipable called your Blood Veil, I'm pretty sure it is. Everything has just weird vampire-y names. And that basically changes your armor appearance and also your backstab animation. But there's a fair few of those, nowhere near as much armor as in Dark Souls, but you can still customize your look pretty decently. The character customization when you make it is insane. You can spend just like hours in there probably. I usually try and breeze through it pretty quickly, but you can, there's so many like sliders and outfit hats and things. You can really go crazy on the customization. And the skills, there's, God, how many skills are there in this game? Like hundreds. There's loads of skills. You can really shape your character to be exactly what you want it to be. That's my favorite part about Dark Souls and Code Vein, is just being able to like dress up as whatever you want, use whatever weapon you want, choose your skills, your spells, or whatever. So I really appreciated that in Code Vein. The price is pretty hefty, and it's like a regular price AAA game, so it's like 60 US, I think, or 80 US for the deluxe edition, I guess. I got the deluxe edition for like 36% off on Indie Gala. Not sponsored or anything, that's just, I just noticed it was on sale for 36% off like 2 weeks after it came out, and I was like, that's pretty good, I should probably go for that. Just keep an eye on like, istthereanydeal.com, that's where I look for all the games I have to buy. God, having to buy games. So there you go, that's my thoughts on Code Vein. Full review basically, I guess. Let me know if you have any questions. I probably forgot some aspects of the game to talk about. I do these reviews without any notes because I feel it comes across as like quite scripted and awkward if I do videos with a script, so I just try and freeball the whole thing. I think it comes across more naturally. There's probably quite a niche group of people who love the Dark Souls games but haven't been able to get into any other Souls-likes. If you are that, maybe try Code Vein, because that was the one Souls-like that I could get into. But yeah, feel free to ask me anything about Code Vein in the comments below. I will respond to any and all questions about the game. Thank you guys very much for watching. Make sure you leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed this. Stay tuned for the co-op series coming in presumably months. We've only done one session so far, and that was yesterday. And I'll see you guys later. Bye!